Everybody. It is just 11 and I think my sound might be a little out of sync. It seems to do this on this computer when I'm live, but you can get ahead of it. So what am I going to talk about today? So today I'm actually going to talk about the business plan. But first of all, since I haven't got anybody on here yet, I'll just chat a little bit about the week and what's happening, what's everybody doing, and if anybody's got any great wins they want to share with us today, and or any challenges that you faced in your business this week. I know that I've seen a noticeable difference in what's happening this week and the engagement this week. So I'm assuming that a lot of you are like on your way and planning holidays, and it's the first long weekend, kids are out of school, and all that fun stuff. So hopefully you're winding down a little bit with being busy. I know that the Toronto market had been crazy. Still is a bit. Like I think I know a few stagers who are like working like dogs, and even though the market has sort of shifted, they're still really busy too. So so adjusting your schedule, and I'd be curious to know actually what people are doing to actually make up for, I don't want to say the shortfall, but like how are you planning for what's going to happen over the summer when maybe you have less work and you want to get ready for, really ramp it up for September, but you're kind of feeling a little trapped with your revenues and what's happening in your business that way. So actually, where am I going to do this? I just want to make sure I see people's questions, and let's see. So I think that that's like a big deal, right? Because we want to make sure that that we are, no, that's not going to work either. That we want to make sure that oh, there we go. We want to make sure, it's not going to work for me. It does not want to, I'm trying to like put two screens on one and share the screen, and it's not really liking that idea at all on the computer. So anyway, so part of like our challenge always is, especially in this industry, because I can see this happening in the Toronto market right now, where we've been so super busy, and at the same time we have to sort of regulate our business around that too, and we have to like be able to plan around the fact that we're not always going to be that busy. And so how do we make sure that we've got work coming in, that we're that we're not feeling the pressure of the shifts in market, because really honestly it's like no surprise to us. So we need to be sort of forecasted or planned ahead of that. And you can think about like Christmas is often slow, but then I remember one of my busiest times of year one year was like at Christmas, and I was swamped. On the other side of that, if you know that it's regularly a routine that you're not going to be busy, then you need to make sure that you've got something in the hopper that is going to allow you to not be busy, but to be busy doing something else, and to find something else that's perhaps like working either on your business, so the admin side of your business, or you're starting to work you're still working in it, but you've got something different. So like at Christmas, for example, if you were doing Christmas decorating, and you were seasonal decorating for properties and businesses as well. And if you're doing that, what you need to do is be planning way ahead, right? So if it's a big part of your business, which I know some stagers have made it into a big part of their business, then what you need to do then is be prepared for it, start marketing it in September, start thinking about what you're going to need in terms of, like if you're doing seasonal decorating, what you're going to need for that. You could also be thinking about the summer in the sense that, like where I am, we're just on the edge of quite a profitable cottage industry, cottage rental industry, where there are stagers who actually do really well going in and setting up cottages to rent, and so that they look they're sort of renewed, I guess, and so that they are really great in pictures, so that when people are deciding where they want to stay, that they want to stay at that cottage. And of course that's something that you have to think about like a few months ahead as well. So what we don't want to do is to really end up being really reactive in the end, right? We want to be able to know that this is what we're planning to do this summer or this fall or this Christmas, and that you've got everything in place to actually kind of make that happen, because that's the kind of thing that really is going to I don't want to say it kills you, but it really drains you. It took me a few years to really truly realize that I was uh, that always in January I was slow, and that I had to do something else that was going to fill the hopper for at least for revenues in January or December, January, so that I wasn't feeling that stress, because it gets pretty stressful when you don't see things coming and you sort of aren't sure even where to look anymore because you're a bit sort of blinded by the fact that things aren't moving quickly. So that was when I actually started training, and I always had a couple of things booked in January and selling them in December, so that I knew that I had some revenues coming in January to offset what was happening. That's especially stressful too if you have a team that you have to be responsible for, and you have to make sure that they're getting paid and that they're happy. And I mean, you're going into the holidays and or into a slow period, and they need to know that they're compensated as well. So that's a lot of stress as well. And really, in the end, it's why you really need to have a plan, and all those things about, like, what you're going to do in the low periods of time are the things that you're going to work on in your plan, that are going to be in your plan, so that you know going forward that that's available to you. Another thing that you can do, and it's not just about filling jobs, is you can think about selling ahead. And I think we don't do this often enough, but why shouldn't we? The rest of the world does this when they're selling well, goodness, lots of different things that you sell. You have a package sale or a special offer that's a sort of a bonus offer that you can get cash flow coming before you're actually even going to deliver. So if you have agents that you love working with and you do consults for them on a regular basis, and you rely on them, maybe what you do is you say, I've got this special offer, and you can say this in the spring or June, May, June. I've got this special offer over the summer that you buy 10 consultations and you get one free, and I'm only giving this to my very special agents that I love to work with. And so then they pay in advance, and you're paid for sort of 10 consultations, so you get a nice little chunk of money in your pocket, and they are, that you're going to have consultations booked with them. And when you sort of assure the agent or your customer that they're going to be your priority because they've already paid and they'll get first dibs on your most available times, then they're getting a deal, they're feeling like they're being taken care of, etc. Another thing that you could do like that too is to offer and sell ahead are like speed stages, or what do we always call those? I've forgotten what I call them now. But a speed stage, for lack of a better way to put it, where you're going to go in and do a consultation. You might do a shorter version consultation, or maybe not so much shorter. Well, shorter because you don't have to sell staging. So you do a shorter consultation, and you go 2 weeks later when they're ready for you, and you start and you do like use what they have and do a mini stage of 2 hours. You and an assistant or 2 assistants go in, and so you book those ahead so that they've paid for those in ahead. So pay for these 3 up front, and you save like $150. And especially good when you're selling to the clients who already use that and are in a position to take advantage of it and know the value of it, right? So you can do specials and things like that, and special offers, and get people to pay ahead. So that kind of like fills your pot a bit when you're worrying about what's going to happen over the summer periods, etc. Now, some of us are really smart, and we all plan it, and we plan ahead, and we save ahead, and we know that we're never surprised, and we know that over the summer this is what's going to happen. And I think sometimes too, when you have a vacation plan, so this is also like going into the summer is the time where you really want to, you have this great opportunity where things are going to get a bit slower because a lot of people are out of the city or out of town and not worrying about the sale of their house. We hope anyway. Well, actually, I don't know if we hope that. Do we hope that they're doing that? I don't know. But what we want them to do then is, I should say, what we want to do is we know that we're going to take a vacation then, or we're going to have me time and family time, and we're going to have business time where we work on our business and not in it. So we can be swamped through the year. And then, hi, Juliana. How are you doing? So we know that we're swamped through the year, but we also, what am I trying to say here? We also know that we are planning for that because we can take that like 6 to 8 weeks, and we can focus on up-leveling. Hi, Nella. How are you? We can just the fact that she's on here today means that the market must be a little bit slow today. But lovely to see you, Nella. And but seeing that the market is shifting. Sorry, what was I trying to say there? Knowing that you can be working on your business. So doing things like planning out what your inventory is looking like in your warehouse, labeling things that you hadn't done that you need to do, thinking about your hiring, just thinking forward and planning. All those things that you put off, that you don't make a priority because you're busy doing staging and working in your business, and that really helps. So all those things can just really keep you motivated. But if you've planned for that ahead, then you're so much better off because you're not worrying about necessarily the cash flow, because you know that you've already you knew about the revenues, that you might have some challenges in the summer, or in those off periods, so that you're using those periods of time to your advantage, which is going to be a really good thing. Oh, thanks, Nella. And so that will really help you, especially if you haven't gone through that before, because it's not like when you have a job and you know that you have a paycheck every 2 weeks. So, and you know that you have a job description which you have to fill in. So when you're working on your own, it's a different kettle of fish, and you have those different sorts of challenges and those different ups and downs. I know, like, for the first time this summer, my kids are going to be home. I don't know how that's going to go. They're not in camp this summer, and so we have to make a real conscious effort to be around for them and to make sure that they have a good summer. So today's their first day off. I think I hate that electronics will become like a sort of something that they will rely on, but you never know. Sometimes it can be very, very useful when they are young, and they'll do that, and they're not bugging you. They're not quite old enough to go out on their own and be out with friends, going places. So they're going to be looking to us. So that shifts how my summer works as well. And so, of course, then that's when I would plan a vacation. So we're going camping this weekend. And so that's kind of the sorts of things that we would be planning and thinking about as well. So the whole idea of having a plan, like having a business plan, is not really so much that, like I talked about this yesterday in a workshop. It's not really so much about the fact that you have something and a financial plan and a sort of a shape of your business that you can show an investor. Like, that's perfect and that's ideal, and yes, you can do that. But not all of us are planning to do that. Not all of us think that we need to have a business plan, because that's not what we're planning and where we want to go. But I really truly look at a business plan now. I didn't when I started my business, but now I see it as this beautiful roadmap showing you exactly where you want to go with your business, outlining the targets and your plans and your strategies, and it's something for you to follow. Like, it's something for you to say, to be able, like a touchstone for you to be able to know that you're on the right path, and to tell you that you're on the right path. It's okay to dream big. I know that some people are sort of opposed to the idea that you're going to dream big with your business and you want to be realistic in a business plan. I don't think it is. I think when you're self-employed, you're telling the universe that the world is your oyster and you can make as much as you want to. Now, I'm still waiting for that, but anyway, but the world is your oyster and you can do as well as you want to. So why would you not dream big? I mean, did you ever anticipate that you were even going to have your own business? So that's dreaming big. So I think what's really important is that your plan really reflects your dreams and your vision for your business, and when you got into business, what you really wanted from it. And some of the things that really come to us a lot when we are thinking about what we want in our business and why we get into business on our own is not the things like, oh, I want to have a staging business and work 80 hours a week and like have $50,000 worth of inventory in a warehouse. Those are part of it. Like they sort of get you there, but are often our big reasons, those big dream reasons for having our own business, are because we really want to be able to live the life that we want to live. We want to be able to spend time with our kids, be able to get off work at 3. I hear that often. I know when I started my business, that was something that I seriously was thinking about, although my kids were in daycare, so I didn't really worry about it too much at that point. But for sure, it's the idea that you're home for your children, that you can take, decide, I want to have a long weekend and go away for the weekend with your family or your husband and or by yourself even. Oh my goodness, what a dream that would be. but to go away to New York for the weekend or something, again, by yourself, wouldn't that be lovely? But or other stagers, but to that's that living your dream. I saw a quote recently that said self-employed people work 80 hours a week in order to actually work 20 hours a week. You know, that our dream is to work 20 hours, but in order to ever get there, we keep working 80 hours, and do we ever get to the 20? But this is one of the ways that you would actually get to work that way, because you have a plan, you have a strategy, and oftentimes, so you start with that big picture and you work backwards from there, and that big picture being that business that you dreamed, living the life of your dreams, making the revenues of your dreams so that you can live that life of your dreams, or that you just really love to decorate, or to work, really working with people and making people happy with what you're able to do for them. Those are parts of your dreams as well, but they're all very much influenced and can be facilitated by having a plan, and knowing exactly where that plan is going to take you. And as I say, exactly where, it's not even exactly where, it's this framework. So I was describing yesterday that my dad is on his way up from California, and he stopped in, he's in Dakota, well, he's in North Dakota, I think, and as he's driving along, he has to really know where he's going to go, because he has to know, even if he doesn't know exactly how he's going to get there, he has to know that he's going to Toronto. He has to know that he's going to, that he's got enough gas to get him there, and that he can fit in sometimes to eat along the way, and maybe take a rest, and slash or vacation. And so having that map to take you along that way, that plan, means that he isn't wasting his time and he isn't lollygagging along the way. He has a destination and a time frame that he's going to get to. He has, I'm hoping he's going to be here for Canada Day, or at least for the fireworks. And so that's his target. So because he knows his target, he's going to create a plan that works so that he gets here in time, and take the route that'll get here as well. And it's the same thing really with your business, because if he didn't have that map and he was just driving aimlessly through the States, you know, he could go anywhere, and he could, it would certainly could end up back in Toronto, but the route of which he would take, and the stops along the way, and the expense that it would cost him, because he'd have to stay in a hotel and he'd have more gas and he'd have more to eat, would actually cost him. And it's that same thing with having a plan for your business, because when you can plan ahead, like, you know that this is my end goal, that I'm going to be here at the end of a year, or the end of 2 years, or the end of 3 years even, and even 5 years. Like, I think that big picture dream really needs to be there. Like, there is absolutely nothing wrong with having that dream for yourself. And you don't have to tell anybody. It can be absolutely your own dream. But imagine if you reach that dream. I think that it's really important to reinforce those messages of your dream and have them, like I have a bunch of stuff behind me on my computer, above my computer, of things that are like my dreams, you know, that, what does it say? I'm thrilled to have the opportunity. I always have great cash flow. Like, I have all these sort of mantras around my desk, and, but also, like, they're my goals as well. I have another one that's quite ambitious, but they're goals, and I see them every day. So I'm reminded every day that I need to take the steps to get there, because that was really my goal. And my goal isn't changing just because, my goal isn't created just because because this week I got 3 jobs, or it doesn't change because next week I got no jobs. My goal is still at the end of the year what I want to be and where I want to be, and I'm going to find my way to get there. So I think goals are a really important part, and targets, actually. I don't even know. Goals, I kind of feel like, are at the end. Targets are along the way, and you can have milestones along the way as well, and just things that you realize that, you know, that was a good month because I did this that month. The other thing about having a plan is that you don't have to. What was I going to say? Totally went out of my head. Your targets along the way are changeable. You know, so if you end up, as you get into your business, like, you could start your business and know, I want to make 200,000 this year. And as you start in your business, you sort of realize, oh, however much that's my goal, maybe that goal needs to be shifted to year 2 or year 3. And that's okay, because you can shift them, but you still have a plan to get there. You just need to have some more steps in there. So just because you don't don't think that you're going to reach your goal in the way that you set it up doesn't mean that you won't. And it's the same thing about if you track your revenues weekly. I used to be really super good at it, and I would track my revenues weekly in a Excel spreadsheet, and I would know by doing that where I was, because it would also have my targets, and these are my revenue targets. It would have my targets, and I knew that every week that I looked at it, that if I wasn't quite where I needed to be, if I didn't look like I was going to hit my quarterly target, then I could look back at that where I was actually, my real numbers, my actual numbers, and think, okay, so I'm going to be $3,000 short of my quarter if I don't get another job, and I could fill up that $3,000 by doing a vacant staging. And yeah, I had a client that I did a consultation with last month or 3 weeks ago, who said that they wanted to do a vacant, but they had a vacant to stage, but they weren't quite ready yet. So you take the bull by the horns and you call them and you follow up. I find that, like, being able to check in and do that regularly, because when we don't do it, it's often that we have our heads in the sand, like that we don't really want to know the numbers. And the thing is that when you actually look at the numbers, they can be quite surprising and quite motivating, because actually you can discover that, hey, I did actually okay, and I am actually on target, and I actually might even reach my target. And those things, when you see that, that's actually really motivating. So it's actually far less motivating, it's demotivating to actually not look at the numbers, which reminds me I should probably look at the numbers. But it really does help you. And so when you're tracking and looking at those every week, then you are really in control of what's going to happen in your business, because you can decide what the next steps are and what the follow-up is. Like when I was talking at the beginning of this Facebook Live, and about the fact that when you are going into a slow period and you know it, you can plan ahead and have a special offer and sell something in bulk, and sell ahead of your delivery. And you can do that same thing when you know that there potentially could be a shortfall for you in this quarter, and because you're looking at your spreadsheet and you're seeing the actuals, and you know what your targets are, and you can say, you know what, if I sold 2 packages of 5 consultations to 2 of my favorite agents, they would be, then I would make my shortfall, and I'd have job books, and I have the potential for those jobs to turn into full staging, and so my revenues potentially are going to go up just because of that. So I think you can do some interesting things when you look at those numbers to really make sure that you get on target as well. So you can follow up, or you can plan ahead, you can build in some sort of other strategy or some sort of other business. Maybe that's when you decide that workshop that I planned for this quarter, I'm going to do it sooner rather than later, because I really want to make sure that I'm nurturing those clients so that they're ready to stage in this quarter. And so you can expedite things like that even. Now, you don't have to do all those, you don't have to do them all at once, but certainly they are, it makes you, and this is really, really valuable, I think, as a stager, because I think we're often reactive as opposed to proactive, but it makes you take charge of your business and not be sitting waiting for someone to come with work for you. So when you wake up on Sunday night, or you're going to bed on Sunday night and you can't go to sleep because you're thinking, oh my goodness, I don't know if I have enough going on this week, then you can actually turn that around, or could have turned that around by last week working ahead for this week, or 2 weeks ago working ahead for this week, by knowing and like who's in your hopper and who you need to follow up with, and what potentially you could sell in advance to your client list. So so that's one really valuable thing I think about planning ahead with your revenues. But the thing about a business plan is that it actually does not have to be about your revenues, and neither do your targets all have to be about revenues. They're all going to lead to that great number, but they don't have to be that. You know, your milestones and your targets can be all about, like, how many jobs do I need? So if you look back at like, let's say you have your big picture, and in year 2 you want to do 100,000, let's say, or maybe let's say the year 1 we're really great, we're going to do it in year 1. So you have $100,000 that you want to make in revenues, and you have to then think about, well, how many jobs do I need in order to make $100,000 this year? And if you know, like, this is really influenced by your ideal client as well, and where you work and your niche and your marketing, because all those things are going to be sort of focused on likely a particular area, a kind of client, and perhaps and I'm thinking, well, let's say a vacant. Let's say you do builders vacants, okay? So you know that if you're going to do builders vacant, it's going to, let's say it's going to be $6,000 to $7,000 for each vacant that you do for a builder. You know that, so you can plan ahead for that, and so you know that you can build in that I've got these 4 builders that I'm working with, and between them they're going to keep me in pretty good money over the year. But you can know pretty exactly how that will work, because if you know that you want to make $100,000 and there's 50, let's say your average job that you normally would be expecting from your client base is about $2,000 each, then you know you have to shoot for 50 jobs this year. Then you have to break that down into to how many quarters will that take you to do that. So that's like 12 jobs a quarter. So 3 jobs a month. Is that right? So you're looking at sort of 3 jobs a month at I don't think that's right, but let's say it is. You're looking at the key part is you know how much the value of the jobs are in sort of average, because that's the market that you target. You also know how many jobs you're going to need every quarter in order to achieve that end goal of 100,000. And then the next step is that from that, you also can figure out how many agents you need in order to be able to get you those jobs. So you can look back at your agents and think, and in your spreadsheets, and see how many jobs each of those agents gave you, and decide, oh, you know what? There's not enough to give me $100,000 in this year in the revenues. I'm going to have to start really ramping up my networking and really engaging with new realtors. And then all of a sudden, like your target for finding new agents, or the agents that you need to have on your list, you know exactly what you're going to be looking at. And let's say you need to have 3 more agents, and you know that you need to have 3 more agents in order to give you the additional work. And you maybe know that you need to meet with 5 different agents in order to secure 1. That's totally, it'll be your figures, not mine, but just a guess that you need to meet with 5 agents and woo 5 agents in order to get 1 to work with you on a regular basis. The other part of that equation is that then you need to define who that agent is, and all this fits into your plan. So when you know this ahead of time, it's like you're filling in the blanks as you go, and you're completing things as you go. For the most part, you need to have probably somewhere between 6 and 10 really good agents who are going to keep you busy for the whole year. They're going to keep you in regular business, and then you probably want 20 to 30 total that in your corral of agents that are going to be the people who are going to continue to give you business through the year. And it might be occasional consults, it might be like occasional vacants, but they're not as consistent as your core group of 6 to 10 agents. And having that core group of 6 to 10 agents will, knowing who those agents are people that you really love to work with, who have the clients that you love to work with, who pay the value of the jobs. Like if you're looking at a $2,000 job or $4,000 job as sort of like your target, then you are going to make sure that you are targeting agents who do those kinds of listings as well, and who also stage. I did a job recently, which is becoming a thorn in my side, but for a friend, and I love her dearly, but like the whole thing, I did not walk the talk at all when I did this job. It was like quite embarrassing actually, but anyway, whole other story. But what really surprises me is the agent that she's working with, who is paying for the staging. He is a really big agent, works for a brokerage and is a team with a guy who's like high-end homes and big lister, and they don't even have a stager, and they don't even work with a stager. But yet, if you were to be pursuing an agent, you would probably think this team was a team to pursue. So you don't want to just look for the ones that have the high-end homes. You want to really truly look for the ones that believe in staging and that pay for staging, that see it as an investment, or I shouldn't say that they pay, but they pay for a consultation for all their clients, and they anticipate staging is going to happen. They go forward with the idea that you're having a consultation because you're going to actually have someone come in and stage. So I think it's really very important to be very clear on like who your ideal client is, how much the value of the jobs you do are going to be because of your ideal client, and also your niche. Like if you're doing what would be a good example? Well, we're talking about the vacants. So if you specialize in doing vacants, that you know what your average job for the most part costs, you know the market and the area that you really target most, and I can often see that even just looking at people's pictures, you can tell where they really have a focus. I know that Wendy Dookie is in Hamilton, and she does in the Hamilton area, and she has a really cool niche market of doing lower list homes, and she does a really super job at making something out of nothing, and her agents love her for that, and they keep coming back. So she always knows what the value, pretty much the average value of her jobs are. She knows the agents that will do that work, and she works specifically with those agents. So when you know that, it really helps you to plan better too, that you're not just waiting for anything that comes your way. It also makes you feel better, I find, when you're when a job doesn't happen and it's not one of the jobs that you would have chosen, that you don't have to feel desperate to take a job because you know that's actually not really your niche, and that there's someone better who could do that, and in fact you're waiting for this kind of job instead. Not that that's bigger and more money, just that it's a different kind of job, different kind of client. So when you know what your niche is, and maybe niche is too strong a word, but you know where your focus is in your business and where you're really drawn to, and where you do your best, your zone of genius, then that is kind of where you're going to stay with where you're going to target in your business. So that's also very important. So part of what goes into your business plan is, as I said, it's not just the revenues. It can be the targets of the number of jobs you want to do in a year, the number of consults. Like if you know that typically your conversion for consultations is 75%, then you're going to actually, what you're going to be doing is targeting how many consultations you need to do every quarter, because you know on average it's a 75% conversion. So you're going to need, let me see, what's 50, sort of 60 to 65 consultations, I think that's right, in order to get 50 stagings. And you're going to be working with targeting the right agents as part of your networking strategy, that you're going to those ones. And if you were working with builders and doing, builders vacants, and you're networking, you're going to go to the places where those builders are going to be. You're not necessarily going to go to the place where all the agents are. You're going to go to the builders who hire you, and so when you lay all that out for yourself, you can be very strategic and not waste your time and not waste your money being where you don't need to be, and also saying yes to things that you didn't really want to do, which I did with this last job. I can't believe I did this last job. Anyway, we're not always perfect. Well, not that I ever was really perfect at doing this, but I certainly was not perfect this time. I did not walk the talk. But anyway, so having that plan ahead of you is and setting those steps in place makes running your business really nice too, because you're not always stressing about the revenues that are coming in. You kind of know what's going to happen. And if in the middle of that you're also planning that, summer's slow, and that's when I start doing, staging cottages or rental properties, holiday rental properties, then you would be planning ahead that's part of in your plan as well. And as part of that, like, have you contacted your agents, and what new agents are really showing up in that area, and how do I market to them, and things like that? Who are the big realtors and the brokers? And certainly in my area, I suspect if you were to look at cottage country, let's say if you were looking at rental properties and you were looking at high end, there's a couple of beautiful lakes with some very high end properties, gorgeous cottages in my area, or I should say north of me, and those are very likely listed by a couple of particular real estate companies and a couple of particular brokerages. And so those would be the ones that you would target, because you know that that's what you want to do when you're doing those jobs. So a lot of this you already have in your head, but I think what happens is that it's in our head, but we don't use it to our advantage. So when we know exactly what we want to do, then we're in a much better position to plan strategically where like what our year is going to look like. And so instead of we can be working on or in our business, but we could be far more strategic about the work that we do we can be working in our business all the time, which is doing the staging, but our work on the business can be just as strategic and less time wasteful, because we're getting the jobs that we want, and we're working with the clients that we want to work with, and we're getting the revenues that we plan for. So those things become very important as you're planning forward. Does anyone else have any thoughts about that? Any challenges with that? Another thing that your business plan actually, please post away if you comment away if you have anything. Another thing that it really also helps you with having that plan is that you are able to think about, sorry, I'm just moving my screen a little bit here. You're also able to think about things like, where did that go? I had it right in front of me 2 seconds ago. Oh yeah, so it's also an opportunity when you're thinking about your plan to actually invest back in your business. So and this is growth is like a big deal when it comes to the plan, because your plan is going to actually help you to move forward on the on building your inventory. So you know that you are going to focus on vacant properties. So you know that your investment in inventory is going to be more. You know that you're going to be looking for a strategically different kind of inventory that you would be if you were just focusing on occupieds. So that the same thing is, if you have your niches and you love to do occupieds, then that becomes really important as well, because you're going to that's going to influence the inventory that you have. That you're not necessarily going to need to have big pieces of furniture, which then influences like what your investment is. It influences what kind of storage you have and what kind of vehicle. So if you are planning properly and thinking about those things, they will definitely influence you. So what does Nella say? Keep educating yourself during the down periods, as we always have something new to learn to try and to achieve. Yes, I would absolutely 100% agree with that. I don't know why I didn't say that, because actually one of the things I was going to talk about was that, because this is your opportunity where you keep working on your business and you keep making yourself more marketable, I want to say more competitive, and I don't mean competitive with everybody else. I just mean that you are, you bring the best to the table, and when people are looking for the best, they're going to go to you. If they see that you are investing in your business and that you are doing training and that you are, and this does not even have to be staging training, God forbid, but it doesn't even have to be staging training. This is things like, you know, Nell, and you can tell me who you follow, but like watching YouTube videos and watching, like I watched about 3 long ones in a row yesterday or the other day of Seth Godin, and like the whole approach to business, and even reading business books, going to business, whatchamacallit, like networking events where you're actually learning about other people's businesses. You can learn so much from each other, and it's actually one of the things that I'm really hoping it happens through this group, is that we really kind of pay it forward, but we're also learning from each other all the time. That there's so much to be gained from what other stagers have already been through. I was talking to someone the other day about warehouse space and the kind of benefits of all of them. Well, there's so many different spaces that I know what it was vehicles. What kind of vehicles do you purchase? Well, you know what? You guys have already been through the process of picking vehicles. You don't just need to hear from me. Everybody has like their own experience and of what they should purchase. Now, I will say from my perspective, I didn't need the big truck because I hadn't invested in sofas yet or beds, and that kind of would have taken me up to the next level. But if you have a family and you're going to use it still as a family vehicle, I have to say the Dodge Caravan was the best thing I ever had, because it had full stone go seats, and I had the squarest and best cubic feet inside that space to fit what I needed to. Because you can have good cubic feet, but if you can't actually get like a straight 4x4 painting against the wall, or a couple of bins to stack because it's not square, or to be able to close the back door because it's curved, then it's not going to be valuable to you. And the Dodge Caravan is so square, and I can fit my kids in it and their stuff as well. So it's really very multifunctional for that. But that's my opinion. But everybody else, I'm sure, has different thoughts on that. So Jen's, I've been approached by a brokerage for a meeting interview. is it a fact that some brokerages charge you to be part of their team? I don't know if this is for me, but I may give it an opportunity. Okay, so Jen, just out of curiosity, because people from are all over in the group, and I happen to know where you work, what company is that? Is it Keller Williams or Remax? Because I know some of the brokerages out there and what they do. So I will tell you that my best investment in my business when I started was that and someone asked me this the other day, and I totally forgot to answer it with this answer, but the thing that really made a huge difference to me was becoming a preferred vendor at a Keller Williams brokerage out where you are, Jen, and that really changed the directory of my business, and it was. Did I say directory? Trajectory. Yeah, so KW, absolutely 100% I would go do it. Because you pay, I think, about $600 for the year, but you get to go into their brokerage meetings, and all their agents all come to their brokerage meetings. So you could have 160 people at a meeting. You get an opportunity to introduce yourself there, and if you have a special, you get to do it every month. You get to put stuff in their mailbox of all the agents. You get to do a lunch and learn every quarter, and it paid for itself with like 3 consultations. So and over a year, that $600, absolutely hands down worth it. 100% worth it. And if you need any tips on that, Jen, you can message me, because that was the brokerage that I worked with. And actually my husband is an agent there now too. So, but for sure, but you also have to be like, those relationships with brokerages are really great, because what actually happens is that they're, with theirs anyway, they are not allowed to actually promote any other sort of stager or any other vendor unless they're on the list. So if they're going to promote you and your value, it has to be someone who's on their list, so they actually want you to go. But people, for the most part, when I was doing it, they came to the lunch and learns. They were keen to hear what you were going to offer, what you were going to talk about. They wanted to learn. But when you're looking for a brokerage that does that, and you're looking for a brokerage where you could potentially be part of their team, you want to look for ones where you are paying to be a partner or a vendor, but you need to know what you're going to get back out of it, because they're not all created equal. You know, the KW brokerages are pretty decent for that, and they have a good reputation, but there are some, I remember going to one, and I met with them, and they couldn't tell me anything about what I was going to get from it. It was just that I was going to pay them money, and that was not good enough. And so you need to be able to look at it as well as to be able to have that kind of relationship with them. And they only usually use, I think, they keep a couple of vendors on board. They try really hard to not flood and like have just a whole bunch of people doing the same thing. They kind of keep it on par with how much it's being used in their brokerages. And another thing that you can do too, and I actually did this at that brokerage for a little bit, is if you're looking to really nurture and network and create that relationship, and especially in the beginning couple of years, I actually had an office there. You can pay for an office in the brokerages often, and you're where all the agents are. The only downside to that is that when you're really busy, you're never in there. But it still is a really useful place to go. And if you stage your office and make it look good, and you know that you're on there for a certain period every week, like you're there on Monday mornings, and you'll answer all their questions and things like that, then you can really make some inroads as well. But you can do that with any brokerage, but you just need to make sure that it's a brokerage that actually is going to be worth the investment for you. Okay, so in terms of also where like having that right plan, like those things, like being part of a brokerage and beefing up your education and your training and your knowledge, those are really things that totally fit into your business plan. And you can plan those for the year, and especially you can plan it when you're thinking about the training. As Nella said, you can add that in to the times when you know you're going to have a slower period of time, and so that is going to be really crucial. I think one point I'd like to really make about the training, and even if it's not training, but the updating and paying attention to what's going on around you, and listening to your mentors, even if it's like the big guys on, following people like Gary Vaynerchuk and his podcasts, and all those things that are really motivating. I have a few that I listen to. Like, he's one that I heard speak. He's a really funny guy. He's not my kind of guy, but he it was him that spurred me on, because, well, actually not even spurred me, made me do a 180 and decide to offer a certification, a full-fledged training program for stagers, because it was listening to him, and he made this comment about, he worried that business owners that were starting businesses now or in business now were not thinking about the bigger picture for their business. They were thinking about a need that they could fill now, but they weren't thinking about like a bigger picture need that they could fill down the road. And for me, just as a sidebar, what that did for me was I knew that I was doing like these small sort of training programs, like on the Nail the Consult and, just demystifying pricing, because I was having a lot of stagers come and ask me that. And what I realized was my vision for the industry was that nobody should have to come and ask me that. They should already know it. And they should have learned that and been able to go back to their training company where they did their training and find out more and make sure that they nail it with them. They shouldn't have to come to me. And so that's when I realized I had like all this information and knowledge. And I also have a communications background, quite a strong communications background. So that helped as well, of course. And I just decided, what I'm going to do this. Now, it's just about killed me putting all the material together, but it's and I did it really on the fly, or not on the fly, but on like a very short time frame. And in fact, I did that in what I was saying to you earlier about selling it ahead before I'd actually finished the course. So before I'd finished actually writing the content. So you can do that, and it's actually quite an acceptable way of doing your business, because you're not actually, in terms of staging and selling ahead, you're actually filling a need for somebody, and you're not wasting your time developing something that doesn't actually sell. So anyway, so that's how I got into what led me to this. But so people like Gary Vee, Seth Godin, and I listen to Marie Forleo, and if you've ever listened to Denise Duffield Thomas, like they all have, like, YouTube is like this, oh my goodness, like wealth of information. Oddly enough, not a lot of staging information. I'm trying to make that a little bit different now, but really a wealth of information if you're looking for inspiration and you want to learn more and add more to fill your brain with more tactics and strategies and about your business. And also sometimes I think what it does is it validates for you that you're doing it okay, that you actually are on the right path, that when you're feeling a bit lost, that maybe this isn't the right thing, or I could have done this a bit better. Listening to those right people who speak to you they're really validating, and they're also can be incredibly inspiring, and they all have their own, as I call it, who do I know that calls it this? It was somebody actually that I learned and that I used to talk about quite a bit. I don't follow her too much anymore, but Claire Mitchell, who is from the UK, and she would call it your shit cart, and we all have that thing that we bring with us that led us to where we are. None of us really got into having our own business because we thought, hey, I want to have my own business. Most of us really took the leap because something pushed us there, because something out of a need pushed us there. And I know for me that it certainly, there was a push when my husband lost his business, and it was so drastic that it shifted, even though I was staging already, it shifted my whole perspective on my business. And I couldn't just be waiting for someone to come into my my home office and say, hey, I've got a job for you. Like I really had to work at it. And that's why the brokerage direction was a good one. So anyway, so that kind of, you can do that without even having to wait for the down periods. But absolutely, the more value that you bring, the more that you can bring to the table, the better off you will be in your business. And you owe it to your business and the investment that you've made, and also to your customers, that your clients, that you have, that you are you are always looking for the more information and more knowledge about business, and I think the knowledge about business is a piece that we miss, which is why I talk probably more about that than anything, because it's the piece that if you don't have nailed down means that you are going to find it really challenging and not be as successful as you want to, and perhaps even go out of business because of it. And unfortunately, I do see stagers who don't price accurately or even well, and don't really understand the pricing formula, don't have a plan, so are just sort of, throwing a jello at the wall and hoping that something sticks and wondering why I think people aren't knocking down their door. And you can fix that. And having a plan and having the training and having the support and the motivation from those around, and I won't even say those around you, but those people that you choose to find motivation from, they will make a big difference. I don't know if I posted this, but I found something, I think I did share it. I found something that was in my Facebook, whatchamacallit, a couple of years ago, and it was that there's always somebody who looks at who has a problem for all of your solutions. So I have somebody in my life who I don't even tell. Like, I blocked him from my Facebook because he just has never had a positive thing ever to say about staging and you being in business, and how could it possibly ever be successful, any part of it. So why would I subject myself to that? So instead, you not subject yourself, but you make yourself fully committed to listening to the people who you choose and who will motivate you. Anyway, first stretch from the inventory I was going to talk about, but so in your plan, along with all that training and knowing who you follow and knowing who inspires you, and those are good things to keep track of as well, are things like building your inventory. Because as you're building, as you know that this is your goal for the year, and you know how much you're planning out how many jobs that you're going to have over the quarter, et cetera, that can be we know that that's not necessarily absolutely going to happen, but it's so much more likely to happen if we've planned for it and we know how we're going to get to that number. And part of that, those numbers are going to greatly influence when you buy inventory and the growth, like sort of the growth of your business. So when you buy inventory, when you go up to a bigger space, from your storage unit or your basement to a warehouse, and then to the next warehouse, that you're growing your inventory, and that you're growing your team as well, and you're growing your overall accommodations, your operations of your business. So things like when you go from your Dodge Caravan or your hatchback to your Dodge Caravan to a truck to a big cube van, and hiring somebody who's going to be your delivery person because you need it now, because that's not something that you can take on anymore, or that you hire someone who does your D-stages because that's just ridiculous that you are getting paid $150 an hour and you're out D-staging when you could send 2 assistants to do the same job and you could be off making more money somewhere else. So it's that kind of strategic planning that actually gets fit into your business plan, but it gets fit in really easily because you have now forecast how much money and revenues you're going to do this year. So you now know that if you are going to have 12 jobs every quarter, and that's going to bring you $25,000 in gross revenues, you can say, so I'm going to spend this much this month, this quarter, that my budget is this much for investing in inventory. And you could also say, because I am going to focus on vacants, my job value is going to go up from 2,000 likely to 4,000, and that's then going to afford me to be able to lease a truck when I need it, or hire movers when I need it, for this year, hire one full-time person that can work with me as my lead on all the jobs, or what would be the other thing, or and increase my inventory so that I can actually go, my inventory budget, so I can actually go and purchase sofas and beds and bed frames and the things that I know that I have to have in order to be able to market myself or be efficient as a stager whose niche is vacant properties. So when you know what your big dream of your business and you work backwards, you can fill in those blanks all the way along, and you're going to be so much more strategic in that. You'll know what you need to do every quarter in order to be able to afford the things that you need to do. And the other thing that is really very critical, I think, when you're doing this, is that you are actually always, you start out your business with the idea of growth. And so if you know that your goal is going to be, let's say, 200,000 at the end of year 2, and you know that's where you want to be. That means you have potentially like $300,000 of revenues over 2 years. And how am I going to make that happen? What kind of jobs do I need to make that happen? How much inventory do I need to make that happen? But it's not, you don't need it all at once. So it's going to like influence your budget. So, but the thing is for you, you need to, that's helping you to look forward and to plan for growth. I see far too often stagers who are really excited, because what actually does happen too is it starts to snowball. You can be thinking, oh my goodness, the crickets, nothing's happening. Then you have a few jobs and it's still not fast enough. And then all of a sudden it starts to snowball. And so where you, one year sort of like the crickets are here and there a fair bit. Year 2, there's starting to be less of them. And year 3, you're busy. And then year 4 and 5, you're like swamped. But you knew that was coming. And so by the time, like, let's say you're in year 3 and if you have been planning for growth, then you know all along that you are planning to hire a part-time assistant. You're planning to have a VA, and you're planning to hire your VA when you have 15 jobs on your calendar every quarter. And that's when you've decided you hire, maybe not a VA, but let's say you have an operations manager at that point. So you can use those marker points to help you decide when you're going to hire, when you're going to need help. And one of the things that gets in our way a lot in that planning is our own selves, because we think that we are going to do this ourselves, and we think that we're going to manage it without having to actually hire anybody. And because we want to be in control, because as stagers we do tend to be a bit type A. I say bit very gently, but we are type A a lot. And so because we're type A, it means that we want to see the outcomes the way we want to see the job turn out the way we want it to. It's important for us to be in control of that, in charge of the creative process. But there are ways to do that without throwing yourself off the bus and letting someone else take the lead, take the driver's seat. This is still your business and still in your control. But if your goal is to have $200,000 as revenues and in year 2, you are not going to be able to do that if it's just you. So you have to know back in the beginning that I am going to have a team, and this is what it's going to look, this is what I envision, and it doesn't have to happen all at once. And your quarterly targets for jobs and revenues and all those things will definitely influence how that's going to happen. And the other thing that it also has a huge impact on is your budget. So if you use all these numbers and all this strategy to then say, well, if I know I have $100,000 coming in revenues for the year, then that's sort of $25,000 per quarter. How much of that actually can I put back into inventory? How much is it going to cover for staffing? And so you have a budget. So instead of like being reactive and investing back in inventory because I've got another job and I need more inventory, you've planned better. You're still going to do that. I know you're going to do that, but you've planned better so that when you get to the end of the quarter, or you're close to the end of the quarter, and you go, I have no budget left, and I've got 2 more jobs to do next week. So that's when you, instead of throwing yourself under the bus and like being behind the 8 ball and not having any money left, you decide, you know what, this is the job I'm going to use like a rental company for, and I'm going to book furniture from a rental company, and I'll just use the accessories that I have. And so your investment are lower. Your investment is going to be lower. You're still going to make your profit on the job. You're not going to be behind the 8 ball, but you'll have done and delivered a wonderful job. And actually, sometimes from experience, when you go and use another rental company to bring in your furniture, it's kind of nice. Like, it's because you're so busy organizing all your stuff for the most part, that when someone else gets to carry that burden of like having it delivered and having it all organized and packed and getting it there, it's really nice. And you're not paying for it because it's part of the client's bill. So that's another thing. And I think it's very important that you don't get yourself trapped into thinking that you have to keep going out and buying new inventory, because you actually don't. There's ways for you to get around that. Certainly, I still pull things from my house every once in a while when I need to. because I don't have the piece, and I think, oh, do I really have to go buy another piece? Because I know that next week I have 3 jobs coming back, and that inventory is going to be back in here. And so that new piece I buy isn't necessarily going to be making me money right away anyway. So you want to think strategically about that as well. So what does Nell say? Creating vision boards. Yes, I think that's great too. A vision board is really good. I keep trying to do them. I keep trying to do them on the computer, and that doesn't really work very well. But I'm kind of, and I suspect many of you are, more tactile than that, and I like to see it in front of me and know that I feel good about what I've got in front of me. And what else? Yeah, I do think it's important, Nella, about the third party, because I think that we get caught up in believing that we have to, it all has to be coming from us, and then we have to keep investing. And I know one of the stagers that I know quite well, she's really grown exponentially, and she was constantly stressing about building inventory and going out and buying more. Now, I don't know if she actually ever went out and rented from someone else, but I know she didn't have a plan, and I know she didn't think, not a good enough plan anyway, and I know she didn't think about growth, because she didn't have time to think about growth, because she didn't plan for the fact that she was going to have to work on the growth at the beginning. And I guess that's the other thing too, is like making sure that you are allotting yourself the time to do this, and which is also why you would want an assistant that you could rely on, so that you could be interviewing people and hiring people and doing what's appropriate, and maybe also so that you could go and do the ordering of the inventory. The other thing the other thing that comes out with the inventory too is that you want to buy your inventory so that it's cost effective for you, meaning that you're getting it at wholesale, that you're getting a good price for it. It's going to make you money because you're going to be able to charge easily for the rental, and you'll make back the money quickly. So you want to think about, like, how do you do that? And capitalizing and buying on wholesale is going to help you to do that. And that's also going to be part of your plan, because as you're growing inventory, you want to be able to know that in the next quarter is the furniture market, and I'm planning to go and spend $30,000 on sofas and art, and that, so I'm focusing, building my budget, so then saving it for that. And so when you can buy them in bulk, and you can, and in wholesale, then, or capitalize with another stager to buy at wholesale, then you end up being able to sit at your desk or spend 3 days at the furniture market, instead of like running out to HomeSense or Target or wherever you're going like crazy all the time. And I love going to HomeSense, don't get me wrong, but you can spend a lot of time doing that. And when you get paid $150 an hour, is that really where you want to spend your time? Is that your clients aren't paying for that time? That's coming out of your revenue, your profit. So that time that you're going to do that. So you have to be like really, you want to be more strategic than just going to HomeSense. And I will say that I did not plan well enough ahead on my budgets, so that I never got to capitalize on going to and buying wholesale. And I really wish I had, because I think my business would have been much more efficient. I would have spent time where I needed to, and my money would have been making me money. My investment would be making me money, and where it really should be as well. So anyway, that's been an hour of talking about the business plan. So I know that one of the things that like I did this week, if I know some of you did it with me, was the 4-day challenge, which was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of work, and I'm not good at talking for short periods of time. I promised myself I was going to do 10-minute videos, and I couldn't do it. I just talk too much, and I want to. I feel like I can't tell you this thing without telling you this thing, so which is my downfall when I'm doing them. But the 4-day challenge was really good, and kind of what it was introducing the second part of the certification program that I offer, which is really the business of staging. And I've had a few students already since I've run the program, several actually, who have come on board who already have training from somewhere else, and they were struggling with, not struggling necessarily, but realizing that they weren't doing it as efficiently and as well as they could be, and what could they do differently. And so they took advantage of the beta offer that we did in the fall, and that was, they've had really great results as a part of that. So that's what kind of made me decide to, maybe I needed to focus and share that among more stagers that that's a program or a piece of the program that you can do. So it's kind of, I've split the program into two so that you can take the business of staging, which is focuses on all the parts of the business that we don't think about when we get into staging. That when we're thinking about staging, we're thinking about the decorating and the actual skills of staging. But this takes you that step further to be, really going deep in the consultation, the pricing, contracts, quotes, the marketing, the inventory growth, the operations side of it. And part of what we do as the outcome of the certificate program or the business of staging is that you actually end the program with a complete full business plan that is built on what we talked about today, which is good too. So it's actually really good. I've been very happy with the end product of it, and it's been the content is kind of an accumulation of my best experiences and the stagers around me who I've learned from, business owners as well, and also my experience training with certified staging professionals, and then also with my own business of coaching, and having people come to me. So a lot of the content really answers the concerns and questions that I've had over the time, and it kind of incorporates what we did with Nail the Consult and the pricing and the vacant staging programs that I was and the things I was doing live at Lux as well over the last year and a half. So so it's really a I think very robust program, and I'm very happy with it. But anyway, so that's just my shameless plug about that. But I also want to tell you that I'm doing and I thought I would just talk, I didn't know what I was going to talk about last night, and I was trying to think, and I thought, well, I've talked about the business plan already this week, and I have another thing that I'm doing on the business plan coming up that you may have seen in the group, which is the Successful Stager Revenue Builder, which is kind of a combination of what we have been talking about in this last hour, but it's really, you get the tools to do it, and we really walk through the process of really planning out what kind of revenues that you're going to have and how we're going to make sure that each step of the way that you get exactly what you want. Plus, we're going to talk about other things as well, but it's really about building that business plan that is really going to work for you. And it's kind of doing this is the perfect time to do it. So I'm only doing it the once. It's the perfect time right now because it's also halfway through the year. So if you look at your numbers or you haven't got numbers and you're thinking, I have no idea where I'm going to end up in the next 6 months, and you want to know and you should know, then this Successful Stager Revenue Builder class that I'm going to do on July 11th is all about that, and it'll make sure that you have a plan and you have a strategy to get there, so that this year doesn't just kind of go by the wayside. You've still got 6 months to make that really work for you. So that's what that program is about. There is, if you're interested in taking it, it's one of my Canada Day specials. So it's $150. It's a 3-hour class. You get the template to do this, and there's a couple of other things I'm sending with it. And also, I'm giving you a 30-minute one-on-one follow-up with me, so that we can make sure that you've got the numbers are all going to work and everything fits, and you're ready to go for the next 6 months. And once you've done that for 6 months, then you can do that for the next year as well, which will really be good as well. So there you go. I'm done. Very much. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Lorraine. Lorraine is in Timmins, and she's one of my new stagers that's in the program right now, who's moving along and already has work, which is, I think, that's actually one of the benefits. I know you guys are all converted already, and a lot of you are trained already, but one of the things that I'm really excited about the program is that it means that because it spans over, the entire program is over 10 weeks, but because it spans over 10 weeks, each week is built on the previous one, so you get to start making decisions about your business and start building your business. And as you're going through, you are earning money. And one of the stagers that finished the program in the first run is she's got 5 vacant stagings booked next week, and she hasn't even finished her last assignment for the certificate. So it's really good. All right. Okay. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer away, and I'll stop talking. I'll do my best anyway. Whoops. How did that get there? And happy to help if anyone has any questions. And thanks, Nella, for your input. Nella and I started, I think, Nella, you were roughly starting your business about the same time as I was, in the same sort of area, but we never really connected until we had beer together. which is another reason why it's really good to connect with the stagers in your community and build that community as well. So. See, I don't know if you can see behind me, where it's on this side. There's a picture right there. That's kind of my I don't want to say my motivation, but it's my inspiration to remind me that I actually ran a marathon in 2003, and that I can do anything if I could do that. But yes, for sure. Okay. And I have inspirational sort of messages behind me and things like on the wall. Now, they're behind me, so I can't actually see them, and they're not so inspirational when they're behind me. But I have a calendar in front of me that says create and a bunch of different stuff. So all good. All right. So thanks so much, guys, for coming, and I will see you next week. I kind of anticipating that the numbers will go down a little bit over the summer, but I'm still committed to doing them. And so if you have anything especially that you want me to talk about or that I can dig deeper on, I'm happy to do that. We don't always have to go for an hour. We can do half an hour, wherever the conversation takes us. I'm happy to chat. All right, guys. So, how does pricing go when you're when you have to hire landscaping? Well, I think that's a business decision, actually, Lorraine, because a lot of stagers don't do the curb appeal themselves. Like they'll have someone else do it for them. Oh, thanks, Nella. You too. And enjoy your clean dog. It's Chloe, I think, isn't it? Yeah, she looked very clean and happy. So in terms of the landscaping, I think that a lot of stagers, that will be a recommendation that they give their clients to do the landscaping themselves, or to find someone. And you can often have somebody who you can refer them to. But if you think that you would that you have enough of demand for landscaping that you could actually be an expectation of people that they are hoping that you're going to do it for them, then, or find someone to do it for them, then you build it into your price accordingly. If you were hiring someone to do landscaping for the job, then you will make sure that they actually they get paid, and that cost gets actually incorporated into your business, into the quote that you're going to give them. Never free, or never as a bonus. That they pay for it in the end. Okay. But you can definitely do that, and you can also decide too, like what kind of, like if you're going to do sort of clean up outside, or you're hiring someone to do that, what the cost of that is, like on average, that you're going to put $200 from every job to get the landscaping done, and then that's your budget, and that's what you tell your landscaper that it'll be less than 200 because you want to make some money on it. So let's say it's 150. You got $150 to go towards landscaping, so do what he can, and this is what has to be done. Something like that. Hopefully that helps. All right, guys. So I'm off, and I'm going to go have my coffee because I haven't had it this morning. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Happy Canada Day. Happy July 4th. I'm going to camping at Charleston Lake this weekend, and I'm seeing my dad, who I haven't seen since my mom passed away, so it'll be really nice. And I'm also going to Kingston to celebrate and watch the fireworks, so it should be a good day. All right, so thanks so much, guys. Thanks, Jen, and you guys take care, and we'll talk soon.